Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of Until It Ran Into Me. Hello everybody, welcome back, or if you're new, welcome in. Off top, as always, I want to say thank you to everyone who has downloaded any episodes, interacted with any of my social media. We actually hit 50 downloads on Buzzsprout a couple of days ago, and I know some people that might not be a big deal, but to me it's a massive deal. I'm very proud of that. I'm very thankful and grateful for all of you for lending me your ears. We also hit over 200 followers on the Instagram account, which is at Until I Ran Into Me podcast, so thank you all for that. So, episode 4. Before we get into episode 4, I just want to say a couple of things. Before I get into those things, I just want to admit that there's a tinge of anxiety with recording this and putting it out there and people knowing that I did this. Last week, I was in the presence of someone who brought this thing up, and it's not the first time this person has done that. The last time that it was mentioned, they said it in a very, negative way, and so that kind of psyched me out. I think that's a big part of it. I'm letting something else get in the way, which is not a good thing. I shouldn't do that. But it's definitely just, because the minute that they said that, I was like, fuck, I'm recording a podcast episode about this. Number 1, what I'm going to talk about in this episode, I no longer do. I will never do it again. It was a time in my life, and that time has passed. Secondly, if you know me, I don't want to talk about it. And I just want to make it clear that I'm in no way ashamed of it. I just don't want to talk about it. It's not me anymore. It's not what I do. It's not my thing. I don't want to talk about it. I want to make it crystal clear that I cannot be shamed about this. I cannot be embarrassed about this. You will not make me feel that way. I am extremely pro. It's your body. You can do whatever you want with it. Can you have an opinion on something? Absolutely. Can you not agree with it? Absolutely. I am not bashing OnlyFans. I am not hyping it up. I don't want to villainize it, and I don't want to glorify it. And as long as you're not self-sacrificing yourself, your mental health, if you're just strictly doing it for money, but you're not into it, it's hurting you mentally, emotionally, your self-esteem, you get what I'm saying. It's your body, you can do whatever you want, as you should. But just not with, I guess you could say, malicious intent behind it, or anything sketchy or shady or hurting yourself. There are positive and negatives to everything, and this is simply me expressing what my positive and negatives are for OnlyFans. I just ask that you be open-minded to the conversation and be respectful. When I refer to the site in this episode, I will both be going back and forth between calling it OnlyFans and OF, which is what a lot of people call it. So, today we are going to be talking about me and my era. My era. Jeez. Of being an OnlyFans content creator of the adult kind. Now let's talk about what OnlyFans is. OnlyFans is a platform allowing creators to charge a monthly fee for access to exclusive material. It was established by Timothy Stokely in 2016. As of 2025, OnlyFans has over 280 million registered users and 4.5 million active creators. An additional 500,000 new users sign up per day, that is according to techjury.net. OnlyFans takes 20% commission from creator earnings, while creators keep 80%. Now, I feel like explaining myself and who I was when I was an older teenager, when I was 18, 19, going into when I was in my early 20s, is crucial to why I ended up doing this down the road. So let's talk about that. I think it's very important to mention that I was a very late bloomer by today's standards. I feel like kids are so sexually active from such a young age, and it's unfathomable to me that they're thinking about these things at such a young age when I can't even remember even that being a thought in my mind, sex and all that. That's crazy. But anyway, I didn't have my first kiss till I was 18. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 24. I never had a young love. I never had puppy love, childhood romance, whatever you want to call it, that innocent love. I didn't have the typical high school experience. I dropped out, so there was never the opportunity to really have a high school relationship, I guess you could say. So I didn't have the high school boyfriend experience. I didn't have that introduction to relationships and emotions that you feel for another person until I was an adult. And being thrust into romantic, quote unquote romantic love, dating, all of that as an adult is kind of bananas. The guy that I had my first kiss with was 5 years older than me. He was in his 20s. And I was so green to all of that, and that was not a healthy dynamic. He was my first boyfriend. He wanted to, because he was a virgin too, he wanted to sleep with me, and I was adamant about not doing that. One, because the feeling was there not to. I just felt it in my gut not to do it, because I knew that if I did, I could never take it back. I mean, we did things. We, experimented, but we never took it that far, because I didn't want to take it that far. And I'm very thankful looking back that I didn't, because that would have been a huge, massive mistake on my part. And this was not the person to do that with. Secondly, I knew he was talking to other people. I found out that he was talking to other people, and he was having like a whole other emotional thing with another girl that lived far away. And that by itself, like, I'm not going to give you something that I can't get back because you were not worth it. No. When things ended with this person, he said a lot of really, really mean things to me that at the time really affected me. They really affected my self-esteem. They really affected the way I looked at myself physically. I did not feel good enough for anybody. I didn't feel attractive. I didn't feel good enough at all. So yeah, it really had a hard impact on me, and I wasn't with anyone for quite some time after, I would say like 7 years later. Fast forward to when I was 24. On my 24th birthday, I met a guy while I was out. We dated for 4 months. Shortly after we met, he ended up moving to San Francisco for a job, and we tried the whole long distance thing. Now, I believe it was after he moved and he would come visit that I lost my virginity to him. I did not let him know that he had been my first until weeks after it happened. I think it was, I didn't tell him because you're afraid to. I feel like the older I got, the more nervous I got. And maybe I just felt like if I didn't say anything, then he wouldn't be like, oh, I want to be your first because I want to be your first. Or it wouldn't be like some weird shit, you know what I mean? And I think it was also just being scared that he would judge me or make fun of me or, or wonder like, oh, something's wrong with her because she hasn't done this yet and she's this age, And he was significantly older than me. He was in his mid-30s. I was early 20s, he was mid-30s. And that was honestly one of the more healthier dynamics of mine with someone at the time. We didn't really have any bad blood between the two of us. Even after things ended, I consider him a really good person. Just the circumstances of the situation just made it not work out. And for a long time, honestly, I want to do a whole separate episode on him because that was a very formative situation. So many things transpired between the two of us, even after. And I would love to get into that further. This is not the episode to do that, clearly, but it was a very formative situation and shaped me a whole lot. There's so many layers to it. We ended up breaking up because he couldn't do the long distance. I couldn't do the long distance. We knew it wasn't going to work. I remember we went to a restaurant that was actually literally right next to the place that we met at. And we talked, and he said that he had been on a couple dates while he was up there in the city, and that he wanted to end things, that it wasn't working. And I agreed that it wasn't working because I was going through my own stuff, being all the way down here and being up there. It just began to feel like I was all by myself, and I felt like, I was only with him when he was around, but when we were apart, it didn't feel like we were together. There was a distance there, like emotionally as well as physically. And I felt like I was always just waiting for him. So that was very hard too. He would come down every weekend if he could. Some days he would come the same day and then he would leave that night. But it got very few and far between. And you're not spending time together. You're not progressing in the relationship. It's just stagnant and it's just sitting still. And he had been seeing other people. So that wasn't the greatest thing to hear from me, obviously. But, it wasn't the ideal situation. And that was really hard because he was the first person that I slept with, and now I have to go meet someone new, and I still have feelings for him because of this thing that we share, and it was just a clusterfuck of emotions. It was just a lot to navigate as an adult, and to go into doing these things that people have been doing for a while, and you're so green to them, and you don't know how to be, you don't know what you like, you don't know. It's scary, and it's intimidating, and that's how I felt. I felt very intimidated, very scared that I've had this thing with this person after him, and now I have to, like, kind of start over, so to speak, with someone completely new who doesn't know me, who I'm not comfortable with. I don't think that I gave myself enough time to heal emotionally from what happened in that situation and all the firsts that I had, and coming to terms with all that before I moved on. Well, a month later, I ended up getting with my ex of 4 years, who was an incredibly toxic relationship. It started toxic. The friendship was not healthy either that he and I had. That is going to be a whole episode, honestly. That relationship is where my childhood trauma really came to the forefront, came to the surface. It really bled into that relationship, and like sexually, that was a whole other experience as well. So yeah, that will be covered in another episode, but I moved on very quickly into that from the person I had my first time with. So it was a lot, but it was not a good situation. And I jumped into that almost a month, like to the day after me and him separated. Not a good idea. I was not over him. I was not healed. I was just kind of manipulated, and I will absolutely get into that in another episode, but yeah, not a good idea to do that at all. With all that being said, now let's go back to August of 2020. I had just left a job that I would actually end up going back to that was incredibly toxic. I was going through a horrible depression. I had issues with my then boyfriend. Mind you, that relationship I had already left emotionally a very long time before. We were living together, renting a room together, so I felt stuck. I was in a very deep depression. I was gone. I wanted to completely check out emotionally. I wasn't feeling the best due to my relationship. I wasn't feeling the best due to that job. Now, I made a very stupid decision and decided to leave the job, therefore be unemployed, and then I had no income. So I solely relied on him for things. Looking back now on that, it was extremely foolish and so not like me to depend on him for that kind of support, for that. He was my support initially. Yeah, that was so stupid of me. That was so unlike me. I'm usually wildly independent. But the depression had put me into a state of I did not want to do anything. I didn't want to work for months. I just wanted to be alone, and I wanted to just be in my own little world and disconnect. And that was not healthy, and it wasn't a good idea. It was so dumb and so ridiculous. And I knew of someone I had worked with at this job who did OnlyFans. Before I had one, I had certain people online, random people, I would say mainly from Tumblr, asking me if I had one. I did not at the time, and they told me, well, if you ever make one, you should tell me and let me know so I can subscribe to it. So that was kind of in the back of my mind when it came to wanting to create an OF account and having a reason to do it. To circle back to the ex, that was a horrid situation. We were not intimate. There was no intimacy at all. I hated him. We lived together, though. We rented a room together, so I felt kind of stuck with him. We were not intimate. I didn't want him to look at me, let alone touch me. He had a lot of intimacy issues himself. He was an alcoholic who was very mean. When it came to sex, he was very controlling, and he wanted it when he wanted it, and he didn't care if I was in the mood or not. I was just supposed to do it according to him. So yeah, it was very, very weird and disgusting, and I was just repulsed by him, both physically, emotionally. And he would make comments about me and our sex life that bothered me and made me feel bad about myself. I truly thought he was trying to shame me or bully me into doing it when he would do those things. So, I looked for it elsewhere, and this was my way of looking for it. For the validation, to feel desired, to feel confident about myself, my body. In retrospect, it's kind of interesting, my thought process. I really don't understand my own thought process during the time. because I was seeking validation, like I said, from other people, but I was also turning myself into an object, which is what I feel like he did to me. So I don't really understand the thinking there and looking back on my part. Now, he was aware that I was thinking about starting an OF. I did talk to him about it. I did kind of ask for his blessing, because we were together, we were a couple, we did live together, and I just wanted to give him that respect. And looking back, I don't remember any objection on his part for it, which I think surprised me at the time, considering how rocky our relationship was, and our sex life was, and just the issues that we had. He didn't say no. I signed up in August of 2020, so this was right in the beginning of COVID. And what a time that was, am I right? OnlyFans received a huge influx of signups. During this time, it was a 75% increase, with 150,000 new accounts created daily. They benefited massively from the pandemic. So once I created an account, I made, because you have to wait a little bit to get the account going, you have to get approved, you have to submit your ID, you have to fill out a form of like an independent contractor, whatever that stuff's called. They have to verify your bank account, all that stuff before you can post. So it took me a minute, and then I ended up making like my social media pages for it before it got approved. So I did like a Twitter, an Instagram. I think those were the only two that I had, now that I think about it. I remember I tried to advertise it on my Snapchat, my personal Snapchat, in a very, what I thought was a very concealed way. I thought I was being very low-key, and then people automatically would respond to the messages I sent and be like, is this what this is? So that stopped immediately. I had a decent following on Tumblr, so I used that a lot for advertising. Instagram was a big one too. Twitter was okay. I think Twitter was like a good place to follow other creators and things like that. It was advertising obviously, but my main advertisement was Tumblr and Instagram. And I had to be very careful, very, very, very careful with what I posted on Instagram, because their guidelines are very, very strict. I got my account suspended a couple times. I got it deleted for a while. I ended up getting it back. Twitter is obviously, you can do whatever you want on Twitter. They're very free with what you can post, so I could post pretty explicit stuff. Not like too crazy, but just explicit enough. Everything that I did was solo content, just me. I did at one point entertain the idea of doing collaborative content with other women, but my own insecurities with myself led me to not do that. I was very insecure, and I didn't feel physically good enough, if that makes sense, to do so it never happened. When my relationship ended, it ended in 2021, which was massively overdue, but anyway. And I was still doing OnlyFans. I did also entertain the idea of doing content with other men, but it was a combination of the insecurity that I felt for myself, and also, men feeling weird about like being in shots and being able to see certain tattoos that they had, piercings, whatever, that could be identifiable, so that never came to fruition. I did have a couple people who inquired about it, but it never happened. I also kept my face out of everything that I put out in the beginning. I cut my face out of every piece of content that I put out. I never used my real name. Toward the end of me being on there, I did, on the Instagram account that I had for it, show my face in a couple of shots of just obviously things that were appropriate to post to Instagram. But that was it. When I first started, getting it up off the ground was really hard, because how do you promote something like that? I didn't want people to find out about it that knew me. I didn't know how to promote myself, so I kind of just posted links to like my Snapchat, and the people who had asked me about it, I sent them links, and I slowly started getting subscribers. I think only the most that I had at one point was close to 30, but yeah, it was a very hard thing to establish and grow. I think a huge mistake or assumption that people make about doing OF is that you will jump off right away and make all this money, because that's what people, primarily celebrities who already have massive followings beforehand, do. If you don't have a large following on any social media before you make an OnlyFans, it's very hard to get it off the ground. It takes a hot ass minute to establish it. Even more so if you're not super public about it and you're trying to kind of hide it from people. it can be a huge challenge, and was. Tumblr was a massive place that I advertised because Tumblr was, I don't think they were enacting the whole no more porn on our site at the time. And I wasn't posting anything crazy. Like, I wasn't posting clips of myself. I wasn't posting videos. I was just posting, like, lingerie pictures. That was how I mainly advertised it. And, people would like it. They would reblog it. They would respond to it on Tumblr, and that would give me significant traction. They would reblog it to their followers who would follow, just trying to advertise myself. And that was a good tool and a good site to use to do so. There was a time when that's all that Tumblr was, and then they banned, all of it. So I think this was right before or either right after, and I just, would edit it out enough to where you couldn't tell what it was, but you knew what it was. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. When I first started doing it, it made me feel good. It was fun. It was empowering. I felt really good about myself. It gave me the confidence boost. It gave me an ego boost. It made me feel good. And I can see why that can be so alluring and intoxicating with doing OnlyFans, is the constant validation and being told how hot you are and how good you look, and, whoever your man is, he's lucky, and, all those things. It definitely hyped me up a lot in the beginning. And then as I got further into it, shit got pretty real. And it started to not be fun anymore. It started to affect me, my mental health. It started to affect my body image. A number of things occurred. I started to feel like not a real person, just an object that I did to myself. I totally acknowledge that. I did that to myself. But I still felt icky, I had people find out about it that I worked with. That was very weird. There was one person in particular that I worked with who, would come up to me and make comments and talk about it. There was a girl that I worked with that followed the Instagram for it. She even at one point messaged me and asked me if that's what that was, because I posted a link that didn't say what the link was, but it was a link. And I told her yeah, and she told me that she had been thinking about doing it, that people she knew said she could make a killing, that she wanted the money, and I told her that, if you do, I will help advertise you, get it off the ground, because it's difficult. And that was about all the interaction was. And she, would comment on it, heart emojis, heart eye emojis, all these different, suggestive things. And I found out that she told somebody who I ended up dating, he later admitted to me that she was the one who told him that, oh, Brittany does this. So it did get out, and that's a risk that you take. That was a risk I was aware of happening. I tried to move as under the radar as I could about it when I would advertise it, but, you can only do that for so long. Because, of course, the people that you know are going to be people that you advertise to, because if you don't have a following built up already, you have to go to people you know. So some people I did speak to about it. Some people I approached about it. So yeah. And of course, I use social media to advertise myself. I had a Twitter account for it, now X, where I would follow a bunch of other OF creators, mostly women, to try to get them to repost me, or, we could interact and kind of repost each other, agree to that. I did that too, and I had a decent following after I put in some time with it. But the thing about following girls like that is you start to compare yourself to them, and you start to, if they do content that's more than what you do, that's intimidating. If they're prettier than you, if they have a nicer body than you feel like that's intimidating. I constantly compared myself to these girls who were gorgeous and really hot, and it really messed with my self-esteem. It messed with my body image. It made me constantly pick myself apart in the mirror, and it was tough. Also, doing that gives people the perception that you're always quote unquote on all the time. That's all you think about, that's all you do, that's your whole personality, that you're not an actual person underneath that. So that was a challenge, and it really bothered me. That comparison and that outlook that people had on me led me to the deletion of my first account. Just couldn't do it anymore. It was very much affecting me mentally. Like I said, my body image, so I ended up Xing it out for I think a few months, and then I did end up getting back on it again.
I don't remember my reasoning behind it, but I did keep my Instagram account, and I kept it active during the time that I had the actual OF deleted. And I don't think that that was a good thing to do. I think it kind of just kept the idea in my mind, and seeing like comments people would leave, it made me, I guess, miss it.
I missed the validation that came with it. I missed feeling good about myself. I missed the attention, and I needed it back. So I ended up getting back on for a second time and creating a new account. Now, I don't really remember how long I was back on there for, but something happened that made me get off of it for good. It wasn't exactly something that happened because of OF. It was something that happened separate from that. But the two kind of correlated, and I realized that putting myself out there in that way can be spread around. And of course, like I said, I knew that was a risk, but yeah, it was a huge wake-up call. So I decided that that was it, and that I was done, and I wasn't ever going to do it again because it scared the shit out of me. So basically, someone sent a video of me and this person engaged in an act. Now, my face was not in this video, thank goodness, and gave them my contact information. They followed me on Instagram. Now, they deny this, but I don't believe them because the details that the person who contacted me gave me were way too specific for it not to be them. They gave them my contact info, that this person followed me. We started kind of interacting. He called me. We talked. It kind of took a sexual turn, and then I was over it. And then he got irritated, I guess, at the rejection I gave him, and he told me in a very sinister way. He asked me, "Do you know how I found you?" And I said, "How?" And he said that someone had sent him a video on Discord of me and this person doing this, and that he had given him my Instagram name, and he followed me. Now, when he said this, my heart dropped because this person knows that this person is sharing a video of us being intimate publicly. Mind you, it was a video that I did give consent to filming, but from my understanding, it was going to be used privately and by this one person, only viewed by them, whatever you want to call it. It was not meant to be released to anybody, to be seen by anybody but by this person that I had filmed it with, so to speak. That was just jarring and shocking, and just, I guess the best way I could say it is that it was a huge wake-up call, and it sobered me up very quickly. And my automatic thought was, we're done. We're done. We're never going to send videos to anybody ever again. We're never going to do OnlyFans. We're never going to risk this ever again. And I haven't gone back. Due to recent circumstances in life, I did kind of entertain the idea for like half a second. But I'm not going to do it for a multitude of reasons. Number one, I'm involved with someone who I don't want anybody to see me like that but them. Two, I don't want to do that and risk what happened happening again. Three, that's just not who I am anymore. It's not appealing. It's not fun. I know the other side of it, and I'm just not down with it in any regard. I just don't want to. I think at the end of all of it, I'm just trying to say that if it's for you, do it. If it's not, don't. I think a lot of people can profit off of doing OF. I think they can make a good, decent amount of money off of it. You know, if it doesn't affect them mentally, that's great. And you know what's crazy is when I was looking up things about OF, I was trying to find articles on people who've had a negative experience with it, who have, like, how it's affected them mentally, how it's affected their body image, and I can't really find anything about it. There's a lot about money, there's a lot about people who profit off of it, there's a lot about the financial aspect of it, but there's nothing about, like, oh, I did this, and it, like, really fucked with me, or fucked with my life. So I thought that was very interesting. I know that OnlyFans isn't as big now as it was, like, say, at the beginning of the pandemic. Nobody really talks about it anymore. A lot of people have them. A lot of celebrities have one now. I don't really know anybody personally anymore that has one. So maybe that's it. It's just the decline in popularity. It's not like this, like, scandalous thing anymore to do. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just think that it's so much more than people let it out to be. I think
A lot of creators kind of push it off as this, like, whatever thing, and it's just a way to make money. But it does do things to you. It does have its effects, and I think those things need to be talked about a little bit more, because they are vital to you if you are thinking about doing it, if you're already doing it, if you're in it and you kind of have these feelings but you're not sure. Don't ignore that. Don't self-sacrifice for the money. And if you don't have an established following on social media, because that's a huge part of getting it off the ground, it's going to be difficult. Just like the effects it could have on your self-esteem, the things it can do to you mentally. There's all these factors that I think aren't talked about enough when it comes to doing those kinds of things. When it comes to doing adult content online. I get that, because even I was like, okay, I can make money off this, and it's such an easy thing, but it does have a price. And I think that everybody needs to be aware of that. And I know that not only women do OF, men do it too, but I think, obviously, I can't speak for men, but women's experiences are much different, I would say, than a man doing OnlyFans. I'm not saying that their stuff can't get leaked and all the same things can't happen with them, but I can only speak for me. Just proceed with caution and do your research. At the end of it, there is a price for selling yourself. There is always a price for selling yourself at the end of the day. There's always consequences. There's things that can happen. There's things that can go wrong. There's always a price for selling yourself. That's what I really want to drive home. And that is a wrap on episode 4 of Until It Ran Into Me. Whew. Thank you guys for tuning in and for listening, for being open-minded to such a vulnerable thing for me to do. I really debated on doing this episode, if I should even speak about this, but I feel like it needs to be talked about. A quick note that I am going to keep this podcast as listed as updated monthly. Life is going to get a little bit crazy for a little bit, so I might have a little delay in posting. It probably will go like a full month, so please be patient with me. Just some things are changing and I have to learn how to navigate them, and my brain is going to be full, so yes, please be patient with me. Thank you to all that are new here. Thank you for every sort of engagement on social media that you've given me. All your messages, all your comments, all your follows, all of the things. If you want to know where to follow my socials for the podcast, please stay tuned till the very end of this episode where I will list them all. So yeah, until we meet again, I hope you stick around. I love doing this. It fills my cup so much doing this podcast, and I'm so glad to have you all here. I really appreciate and am grateful for every single one of you. So with that, until next time. Bye!
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Until It Ran Into Me. Listen to new episodes and other news. You can visit my website at buzzsprout.untilitranintome.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Until It Ran Into Me Podcast. And in my bio on Instagram, you can find my link tree that leads to all of my other social media platforms that I'm on. So please give those a follow. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time.